Hi everyone, welcome back. We are now done with the upper half of this building, the masonry with our tan. Took me a couple of coats to get it done right over the dark brown base coat, which we have in the cracks. And I did have, even after those couple coats, to go back and have to touch up a couple spots where the brown was still showing through. But that's what it looks like so far. Next we need to go into our timber and highlight these the wooden framing so it doesn't look like just a flat brown color. Now you could use this kind of medium brown craft paint we used before. It's a little reddish for me, so I'm going to pull out my Privateer press paint. I said don't use your nice paints on terrain, but we're going to use a little of this. It's okay. So this is Gun Core Brown, kind of a light brown, like a color like Beast Hide would be fine too. And I'm going to get some of that on my brush. Okay, I'm going to definitely do a serious dry brush here and get most of that off the brush. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my wood and I'm going to start my highlighting. Now that's, probably not really showing up much at all on the video at this point. Definitely is showing up on the finished product, as it will on yours. We want to get the entire door area. Try to go sideways on the door. If you remember early on in this project in the building tutorials, we carved the slats into the door. This is where we need to make them show up, and if we go sideways across those slats, they will start to show up. Okay, I don't know, hopefully you can make that out in the video, but like I said, if you're doing it along with me, you're going to see it. Right? This dry brushing goes fast. The main thing again is just not too much paint on your brush. Better to make a mistake and be too dry and go back and try it again rather than to be too wet, and then you really gotta kind of start the process again. I want to get a little bit aggressive around these window frames. The more weathering with more dry brushing, the more beat up it looks. We want this house to look old. We've already kind of established that. Okay, so I'm going all the way around this. I'm going to dry brush the frames on this side. See a little thick there. Rub it with a finger. Not a perfect solution, but a solution nonetheless. Alright, I'm going to get this framing. Okay. I'm going kind of with the grain right now. When we do our super highlight, our second highlight, which will be with like kind of a tan, then we will go against the grain, and you'll see what that looks like. I'm going to do this one last side here. So as you can see, this dry brushing goes pretty fast. Okay, and again, I'm going to get aggressive around the window. I picture that's going to have a lot of wear and tear on it. Okay, so again, right now, really with that dry brushing, I'm going to guess it's not, that's not showing up very well on camera. It's definitely showing up on the model. So once we've got that done, then we go to our super highlight of our wooden framing. We could go back to that tan paint, the craft paint that we used to do the masonry. That would be fine, just because I've got it handy here. I'm going to go ahead and go with like a Hammerfall khaki. A jack bone type color would be fine too. Again, or any kind of tan paint, like craft paint that you've got laying around. You don't really need to clean the dry brush in between uses when you're changing colors, because basically the other color, that Gun Core Brown we just used, was on there so sparingly that it's not going to be a problem. So I'm going to go in this time on a super highlight. So I'm going to go this time kind of against the grain, and still a little bit too much paint for my pleasure on there. Alright, and so what's going to happen is when I go against the grain, I'm going to get kind of the upper parts of these frames highlight a little bit. Alright, so, and I always want to kind of go against the grain or against the edges, and so what happens is the edges of my wood really start to stand out. So I don't know if the first highlight showed up on camera, but this definitely should be. The door, we want to make sure, again, we go against the cuts that we made. We made some vertical cuts in this door. It was just cardboard to give it a wooden texture. Now we're going to go in there, and those are going to start to stand out. So a lot of fun. Alright, so I'm going to continue the super highlight around the building the way I did with the highlight, and then I'll show you the finished product, and we'll talk about the next step in just a second. Okay, so I've got my highlighting of my wooden frame done now on this. So the door shows up a little better as far as some of the detailing. The wooden frame's a little bit more realistic as far as looking more weathered. Excuse me. Now what we're going to go on to is finishing off these windows, because there's still this ugly mess, you know, in these areas. So this is really easy. You could do your windows with like closed shutters to give it like an interesting look. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make these kind of plain black, almost like you're looking into an empty house, which is often the style they show in some of the privateer press stuff. So I just need my black paint. I'm just going to shake my paint and use the pot lid, alright, for my paint. These are really easy. You're just going to get into the window areas, and you are going to go ahead and just fill those in. Careful not to get on the wooden frame. You want to keep that distinction. Alright, so I'm getting a little dry. The main thing is when you're doing this, when you start to get dry on your brush, get some more paint, because what's going to happen is if you don't have enough paint and you're trying to like force what's on that brush into the areas, that's when you get messy, and that's when you're going to be painting over the wooden frame. We don't want that to happen. Alright, so just going to carefully, I could even use a finer brush here if I wanted to. Alright, but basically what we're doing is just making a solid, kind of a solid black window, alright, on that. So that's going to be kind of the final look. So really, from the roof down, this structure's done. I'm going to paint in the rest of the windows, and then finally we're going to get to my favorite part, which is the metal on this thing, like the roof. Alright, so we'll do that in just a second.